Hi, my name is Kevin, and basically what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about a couple of things that have been really on my mind lately. One of them is this U.S. Navy contract for ultrasonic acoustic heterodyning technology. It was announced in a press release April 12th of 2000. What I'm mostly concerned about is this. You have one method of targeting a person at a distance, even in a crowd, with hypnotic commands which could not be heard by the ears, but which are heard and understood by the mind. Think about that for a second. Now, we're going to go through a series of images that I've had in a folder for probably about 3 years now, really trying to figure out how or why I needed to talk about this. And I think now's the time. So here we go. Bear with me, though, please. All right. This is kind of I guess you could say, it came from raven1.net, hypnose.gif, March 21, 2000. Basically, it says a hypnotist's voice varying from, say, 300 hertz to 4,000 hertz. Frequency modulator, voice controls frequency. A steady tone like tinnitus, but with hypnosis embedded, which made me really think about what we're dealing with currently today. Curve below is magnified to show how the FM voice controls the timing of the transmitter's pulse. And then you have a transmitter, and then your brain is the receiver. So the timing, and I don't know if you know what this pattern is, basically a simple waveform, but it's also has some symbology behind it if you do the research. There is no conscious defense possible against the hypnosis. That right there should tell you right away there is definitely something sinister going on with this. The timing of each microwave pulse is microwave, by the way. I want you to understand what micro and wave mean. It's a very interesting statement. Pulse is controlled by each downslope crossing of the voice wave. Sharp's original 1974 method. Okay, so 1974 method. How silent converted to voice FM. Hypnosis can be transmitted using a voice frequency modulator to generate the voice. Then pulsed microwave voice to skull, which is your brain, for distance and cover. It's possible, people. Not just possible, it's happening. And it was also happening in 1974, and they were using it secretly in 1976, 77, 78, and so on. And I believe that they've been using it against us for some time. Bioeffects of selected non-lethal weapons, FN1. This is radio frequency directed energy. Basically, very similar. It says observed in clinical settings of the biophysical coupling and susceptibility of personnel to non-lethal effects weapons. There's many reasons why people need this, but when you see people in the street protesting like you've been seeing it in the last 3 months over, racism, violence, name a topic, to get away with it. That's exactly what's been happening, and the media has been pushing it, in my opinion. So here we go. Here's a bioeffects of selected non-lethal weapons. Another one, basically the same thing, just I guess in a different format. These results identify and validate some aspects of maturing non-lethal technologies that may likely be encountered or used as non-lethal effectors in the future, including. Okay. Here's another little slide where a guy named James Vincent says the results aren't 100% convincing, but it's a sign of things to come. Lyrebird claims it can recreate any voice using just 1 minute of sample audio. I'm not 100% sure why I put that in there, but this is kind of where I'm going to go. So I'm going to let you cut right now, and we're going to listen to a take from Dr. Carol Rosin. who actually used to work with Dr. Werner von Braun, um, or Werner von Braun, from the 70s. And it's going to kind of explain a little bit more what I'm talking about, because in the time she's talking about this, she was brought about to talk about in the Disclosure Project of actually what was happening in those days. And so I think she testified before Congress to what was happening in the days of 1974 to 1977 before his death, von Braun. So listen to that, and then we're going to come back.
My name is Carol Rosen. I'm an educator who became the first woman corporate manager of an aerospace company, Fairchild Industries. I'm a space and missile defense consultant. I've consulted to a number of companies, organizations, government departments, even the intelligence community. I was a consultant to TRW working on the MX missile. So I was part of that strategy, which turned out to be a role model for how to sell space-based weapons to the public, the MX missile being yet another weapon system that we didn't need. And I founded the Institute for Security and Cooperation in Outer Space, a Washington, D.C. based think tank. I'm an author and have testified before the Congress, the President's Commission on Space, and to a number of committees of that kind of relevance. Sue, this time it was my turn, Werner von Braun. When Werner von Braun transmitted into my left ear this entire speech from the East Coast of Chicago, it became very obvious to me that we humans have absolutely no idea except what we're told by people who are making money on the next levels and phases of technological developments, that we are purchasing as consumers what is possible. We have barely touched the tip of the iceberg of what the mind is capable of creating. And we create all of these technologies, including our own attitudes, our own philosophies in life, our ways of behaving and relating to people, our choices that our minds, our egos create. That became very clear to me as I started actually integrating the fact that he had transmitted the speech to me and it was real. And I didn't go public about that for years because I knew that people would not believe me. They would think that this was completely insane. But in fact, it happened.
And we are back. So, pretty interesting information. I know it's a lot of information. It's probably information overload because I've been processing this myself for about 3.5 years. So, trust me, I know it's a lot. Bear with me and feel free to go back and listen to this as much as you can. I know the brain can process information every 24 hours. After 24 hours or 36 hours, if you feel the need, come back and listen to it again. You may pick up something else that you didn't pick up before. But one of the things that I do say is I really am not trying to promote fear, even though it is a little fearful to not know where we're going in the next 5 years or 10 years. But clearly, someone behind the scenes has an idea because this has all been going on behind the scenes. Now, this is the first clue that I got that made me realize that this technology was being used against us to push agenda. This is a man who says that he can constantly hear voices coming through the walls. Now, in the world that has absolutely no idea what technology is, sounds like schizophrenia. But we all know from what we just heard, maybe there's something else happening here. DC shooter was hearing voices. If anyone follows the news and shootings, you'll see quite a few of these. They all have the same thing in common. I stop here because, it's very interesting. It's a triangle, which we all know is very interesting within itself. It has a lot of symbolism behind it. But, you read self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. I mean, and these are the goals behind this technology, in my opinion. But this is kind of what you need as a human. Esteem needs prestige and feeling of accomplishment. Belongingness and love needs in intimate relationships and friends. Safety needs, security and safety. Physiological needs, food, water, warmth, and rest. I'm throwing that in there because it's just so out of the norm and it's like out on a tangent, but I feel like it really needs to be in there. And the colors as well, because I feel like those things are exactly what program people, colors and the different things that we hear. And sometimes we don't even know what we're listening to. It's happening. So, how do you discredit a target? You set up a honey trap, you change their photos on social networking sites, and you write a blog purporting to be one of their victims. Email, text their colleagues, neighbors, friends, etc. I wrote this, put this in here. It's a slide from, a video, and when I started to look at this and I started to hear all the testimony of all these kids that went into a place, they all had one thing in common. They all said that they heard voices. But for some strange reason, during the coronavirus and during the last year, people kind of blocked it out. And it's almost like, you know what? Good thing no one's hearing voices anymore. But I got a feeling we're about to start hearing voices again. And that's why I'm making this video. This technology it's actually, I don't know who the man is. He's was in a video and he's in a targeted, he's actually, you can see here, he's targeting someone. No different with a joystick. I mean, this is no different than playing a video game at home. That's why I got it here because, another one that these kids, they blamed video games on quite a few things that they said that were happening because they were hearing voices. And yeah, I mean, when you're wearing a headset and a microphone all day, and you are quite obsessed with the video game and talking to random people, yet you may think you're hearing voices, but I think it's a good alibi for this technology that we're talking about. Here's another one. I mean, you pinpoint the target, exactly what you want to do. I'm saying this for a reason. The next slides in the next video, look, Tennessee church shooting suspect heard voices, had visions of church before attack. It's pretty interesting, visual and thought that something, can actually make you have a visual, possibly even a dream. Colorado school shooting suspect says he heard voices. These are not made up. I mean, you can go look them up. Golden, Colorado, voice of Bruco, Strong, Eagle, Eastwood, thought were coming from a television box haunted him for years, and he told sheriff's deputies he continued to hear them the day he took a rifle to his old middle school and wounded 2 students. This is definitely something we heard in the last 4 years. In reference to the last, actually 8 years, we heard quite a few of these things taking place, and we also heard the word false flag as well. Friday, December 14th, 2007. Colorado church shootings, hearing voices. They all have the same thing in common. There's actually a guy, one of the first slides that we went over, he actually states that, on YouTube that, he heard voices. He wished that we wanted it to go away. There was one of the reasons why he went through what he did, because he said the voices told him that it would stop if he did it. I think there's even a couple other situations where one of them says, "Hey, look, Seattle, Washington. Sound familiar? Testing. This is probably testing in the area. Accused SPU shooter claims he heard voices. You know, I, the, and they all seem to have this same look and same worried. These kids probably have never done anything wrong in their life other than play video games and, you know, maybe go to school and dress a little differently. So I'm putting this out there because, look, the Dallas police attack, suspect James Boulware heard voices, mom says. This was, you can look them up, they're all over the place. Colorado middle school shooter heard voices, was placed on mental health hold back in 2010. Trump wasn't president. He's not to be blamed for this one. So you really, it's not to put the blame on anyone. Clearly, we've been military testing this stuff, and I think that people really need to be aware of this. So the man who shot students at Colorado Deer Creek middle school on February 23rd, injuring two children, one critical, was apparently hearing voices when he decided to open fire. In 2002, Bruco Bo Strong Eagle Eastwood was put on a mental health hold by the Littleton Police Department because he said he was hearing voices coming from a Nielsen television box, the same situation, that had been installed in his apartment. That box was removed after his placement in the hospital. However, Eastwood claims these same voices were with him when the shooting occurred last month. So, you know, Roger Toltz, his private IT investigator, TI specialist, has helped thousands of targeted individuals combat these weapons through counter surveillance and protective electric countermeasures. So these are all the patents. There's more than one. So feel free to check it out. You know, microwave hearing, method of system for warning birds of hazards. So it's almost like people invented things, then they wanted to start using it as experimental processes or maybe eugenics programs in the future. So they put people and probably made deals with them and say, hey, we're going to say you invented this and we're going to show you how it works, and you know, we're going to act like we're reinvented to society now that a couple of guys are dead. And it seems like that's what they've been doing to me. It's just my opinion, but you know, when you watch the next couple of videos about this situation, clearly after watching the testimony from Dr. Carol Rosin, and then you know, you hear the next couple of stories about the big speakers and all the different things that you're about to hear. Look, silent subliminal presentation system, aka silent sound, microwave. This is all microwave. All of it's microwave, okay? Brain frequencies transmission. Why are we messing with this stuff? Okay? Silent brainwash via music or other sound. Subconscious brainwash via video. Subliminal brainwash via music or other sound. I mean, this is all taking place. You know, and look, I'm also gonna state this. It has possibility for positive measures as well. It's not just used as a negative weapon against crowd control and possibly people to push an agenda, kind of like gun control. Because I think that this is what's been being pushed on, and basically after you go to plan B, C, D, E, and F, we're where we are with the coronavirus. So here's some more hypnotic inducer, mind control machine. You know, we all have heard that term. Go ahead and take a look at it. I mean, they're all here. You know, frequency reduction in brainwave, which has the ability to take. You know, I would have to think that a frequency reduction going straight to your brain, since you know, information to the central nervous system, that can actually take out quite a few positive things in your body. Maybe dehydrate you, make your organs shut down, possibly have something to do with the fact that the mineral content in the body is being taken out. You know, a lot of people are not aware that, you know, a deficiency in vitamin D and B12 can actually cause you to have pneumonia. And, you know, I don't know if you know what rickets are, but if you research it, you'll see that that is the start of, you know, mineral deficiency and vitamin deficiency in the body. And we're seeing today that people are being prescribed vitamin D, vitamin C. You know, I don't know about you, but I would be taking vitamins myself quite a bit right now because I don't know what's happening. I'm not the smartest man in the planet, but I can tell you this, something's connected to this, and it has something to do with quite a few patents that we actually own in the United States. So take a sec and listen to the next couple of videos and see if they don't freak you out just anymore. Sorry, but I mean, that is what we're here to learn. So see you in just a second.
We put the spotlight on channeling high-frequency sound waves to a single pair of unsuspecting ears. Dr. Joe Pompey is an unassuming MIT grad with the powers of a superhero. He can whisper directly into the ears of patrons at the local library from way up in the balcony.
Okay, let's try the guy with the green jacket. Hey. Hey, you. Just be aware that we're keeping an eye on you. So you better cut it out.
Pompey achieves this seemingly superhuman feat with a gizmo he invented called the audio spotlight. It's a speaker that focuses sound at a specific target. Pompey was your average teenager always tweaking his stereo equipment, but with a twist. He had a gift for engineering and design. He made an incredible scientific breakthrough that began when he was working a summer job at an audio company.
I started to become interested in really what the shortcomings of traditional loudspeakers were.
He realized that regular loudspeakers can't create directional sound.
A loudspeaker is like the light bulb. The sound that's created really goes everywhere.
The young engineer wanted to direct sound, just like a laser pointer that you confuse cats with. He figured out that mathematically there are only two options to make speakers act like lasers. Use gigantic speakers or only broadcast high-frequency audio waves, the same frequencies Howard Stapleton used to deter teens in Connection 2. The reason lies in the way audio waves travel through the air. Low-frequency audio waves, like bass sounds, have more time to spread out over a larger area as they travel. Short high-frequency waves reach their targets faster. So to get a speaker to beam its sound across the room, you can only use high-frequency sound. But as we learned in our first connection, high-frequency sounds frighten people away, and that wasn't what Pompey was trying to do. So he needed another option.
In order to create a sound source that's directional, either you need to limit it only to extremely high frequencies, or you need to have a loudspeaker that's tens of meters across. When you create a speaker that big, certainly the beam is that big. So it doesn't do very well when you want to target one person or one small area.
It seemed that Pompey's project was doomed.
It's very rare in science to get to a stopping point where you realize that according to the math and according to all known theory, something's just not possible.
Undaunted, Pompey's persistence resonated with the media lab of MIT. They accepted him into their doctoral program and directed him toward an exciting new possibility, using ultrasound waves to create his audio beam. Ultrasound waves are even shorter than Howard Stapleton's high-frequency audio in Connection 2. They're so fast and small that no one, not even a teenager, could hear them, and their tiny, quick nature also makes them highly directional. If Pompey could convert ultrasound into audible sound, he'd be able to direct it like a laser beam. Simply made the math work. Here's his theory. Air is always moving, even in a still room. These air currents deflect sound waves as they travel. Mathematically, there was a way to accurately predict how these air currents would strike the ultrasound waves and convert them into frequencies we can actually hear. Since the ultrasound waves are highly directional, the resulting aim of the audible sound was perfect. The possibilities of this device were endless.
One of the fun things we used to do was get up on the balcony 5 stories up in our laboratory building and aim the sound down at people walking below. Sometimes we'd beam smashing glass sounds at the caterers walking by with dishes, or we'd whisper in people's ears, and it was all great fun.
And adopted a more serious tone. Well, most of the time.
Okay, I think I'll try hitting the girl with the green. Hey, you. We saw what you did yesterday.
Directional sound earned Pompey a Young Innovator Award and the ear of many prominent inventors. But can it help restore calm when the peace is disturbed? And what does the audio spotlight have to do with what this man is doing in his car? Find out next as we ride the audio wave to Weird Connection number. In our first 3 weird connections, sound science linked the revolting to the irritating to a precise channel of disturbance. Now we're just 2 steps away from a new sound wave of riot control. This is entrepreneur Vaughn Simidian, and he's on a mission. He wants to create the most powerful and directional loudspeaker in the world. To avoid annoying his neighbors, He's testing it on a deserted airfield.
1, 2.
Simidian wanted clear laser-like directional sound, just like Joe Pompei's audio spotlight in Connection 3. But he also wanted volume, and lots of it. As an aficionado of classical music, Simidian was intrigued by a new kind of audio amplifier, the so-called planar magnetic speakers. These flat panel speakers caught his ear, as well as his eye.
The planar magnetic speaker that I got to hear cost $6. It was a very, very small, very, very low power, but it had unbelievable intelligibility. You just couldn't turn it up very loud. That's when I began to think, my gosh, if we could make this thing like on steroids and have this thing be powerful, we could take over the music industry.
Unfortunately, the bigger they got, the worse they sounded. That's when Simidian switched on to a low-tech solution for this complex problem. He set up 14 small speakers side by side to act as one giant loudspeaker.
One of the very interesting characteristics of our technology is that it is called dipole. And that means that the speaker sends out as much energy in this direction as it sends out in that direction. It's almost like two speakers in one.
The resulting creation was also more directional. Each individual small speaker transmits its own sound wave. As each wave spreads out, it hits neighboring waves, and the resulting ripples make the beam of sound louder and more directional. On the runway at Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California, Simidian prepped his magnetic acoustic audio device for the ultimate test. If it was loud enough for an airfield, it was loud enough for any outdoor stadium or concert hall. The moment of truth had arrived. From more than half a mile away, Beethoven's Ninth rang out loud and clear. The sonic wall of sound reached decibels near the range of human pain, making Simidian's speaker system one of the loudest and most directional audio devices ever built.
The largest speaker that we've ever created is what we call our 96. Is capable of sending sound 56,000 feet or 10 miles. Perfectly intelligible.
Simidian's innovation for outdoor concert goers brings us to the final connection in this journey. Music lovers are not the only fans of Simidian's new technology. The United States military is training soldiers to use his magnetic audio device as a non-lethal weapon. This situational training exercise brings together all four weird connections. The high-pitched sounds that Professor Cox determined are inherently abhorrent to humans in Connection 1, the ear-splitting tones perceptible only to the young in Connection 2, and the audio that can be beamed to specific listeners, then boosted to uncomfortable levels as seen in Connections 3 and 4. They've all come together in a non-lethal, powerful sound deterrent. Large walls of speakers can raise the ear-splitting tone to a painful decibel level.
Some of them will just cover their ears. The majority of them will leave the area. They just don't want to deal with that type of sound.
Military experts estimate non-lethal weapons can potentially save hundreds, if not thousands, of lives in hot spots around the world.
Okay. Believe me yet? This is like literally quite a bit of videos that I've had to watch. Some of them I just found by complete accident, but we're back to that slide where it says hypnotic states of awareness. Now that we understand that this stuff is possible, there are patents to prove it. There are people who could possibly be, remaking patents to make things even stronger now that some people are no longer with us. That used to have other patents. I mean, I'm sure they took Tesla's information and did something with it. I mean, you would have to think so, right? We all know Tesla was not a rich man when he died. So, why would people do this? The question is money, and a lot of it. I mean, clearly, if you can do some of this stuff and basically gain control possibly of an entire football field, what can you do with that? So let's go through here one more time. We're going to take a look at this slide one more time. We've already seen it. So I'm saying this to say 1974 method. Sharp's original 1974 method, which I find very interesting. Now, U.S. Navy contract for ultrasonic acoustic heterodyning technology announced April 12, 2000. Targeting a person at a distance, even in a crowd, with hypnotic commands which cannot be heard by the ears, but which are heard and understood by the mind. So that means it's literally telepathic. Now that we've kind of discussed some of these, I think it's pretty interesting to say that, telepathy is not a joke. Hypersonic sound offers new way to hear, and we've all seen these situations. Hypersonic HSS creates a laser-like beam of sound, a completely different way to recreate music, voices, or any other sound. About HSS, where you'll hear it, in stores. That is a shopping cart, so it's pretty interesting that you'll see that in that area. In museums, and we have seen that. I've seen it personally. I've seen it, we all have cars. We've all been accustomed to hearing this in our vehicle with navigation. We've all heard it in quite a few places. Chevrolet has it in their cars. They have it in different directional guidance. The voice is talking to you. Alexa. I mean, this was created a while back. So, talking advertisements or product theme songs. Stop in front of a painting and hear a voice tell you all about it. One set of speakers could play for the parents in the front seat. A second set for the kids in the back. Neither could hear the other's music. In the NFL, and we all know the NFL is very, very interesting today. A coach on the sidelines could give instructions to his quarterback on the field. No one could hear. We've been seeing that for a long time, clearly since the early 80s. How HSS works. Now, when you talk about this stuff, it seems, it's just sound. No big deal. When you see a person that could be standing in front of it and you see what it actually could be possibly, the waveform actually hitting their head, it gets a little bit more real to me because, this could be your child. This could be anyone. This could be you. This could be the reason why you have headaches and you just don't know because no one's talking about it because they don't want malpractice lawsuits. So a regular CD player, MP3 player, or any other common device can be plugged into an HSS speaker. Now that we've seen the videos, kind of makes a little bit more sense. Sound stays in a narrow column. To a person in the beam's path, it sounds like she's listening on headphones. Think about the first videos. It's pretty interesting. If she steps out of the beam's path, she hears nothing. That's pretty precise and it's definitely laser guided. So at that point, it kind of mixes two best of the both worlds, but basically what I think they're doing is they're mixing three different types of technology of microwave, and they're probably planning on using it. I mean, who's to say that, it hasn't been used already against us in a major way to make us think something, to get us to pass a law, or possibly to get us to do just about anything they want us to do in Congress for funding. I've heard it many times that 9/11, they never had to worry about funding after 9/11. That's what I was told quite a few times. I heard it on videos. I heard it, people talk about it in the, random videos I've heard. And the people that were interviewed we'll never have to worry about funding after this. That's not the first thing they should have been thinking about. Conventional speakers, audible frequencies can't be forced and dispersed in all directions. Anybody near enough can hear the sound. So we all know how radio speakers work. We all understand that concept. Who's using it? And who's been using it? Who's one of the only stores open right now? Or has been open since the whole coronavirus situation? Walmart. Who's testing it? Sony, Walmart, McDonald's, General Dynamics, ABC, Cirque du Soleil, Procter & Gamble, Los Angeles Police Department, and Sun Microsystems. Speaker pushes out ultrasonic frequencies. When the ultrasonic wave hits a person, they slow down, distort, and mix together, which recreates the original sound in the air around the object, so humans can hear it. Anybody near enough can hear the sound. So basically, it's kind of the same thing we were just talking about. It's just a little bit more understanding of it and who's using it and who's been using it and who could possibly be using it today, because clearly this was not made in the time. I mean, it's probably made within the last 10 years. What happens? Your external ear, this is just showing you what it actually looks like for people who have never seen it. What's in it? The middle ear bones, inner ear cochlea. You go back to that first slide and you kind of put this together, right? Think about where this is in your head. This is pretty much, where your brain is. This is what got me thinking, people. This is a guy, research him. He's a frequency scientist. He's a very smart man. I recommend checking him out. Listen to what he says. He's not joking. We go back to the patents, but I want you to see this because this is where it's coming in, where you're hearing voices. So I'm saying this because when I think of getting swabbed through the sinus area, what if something is on that swab before you're getting tested? What if it's tested that you're actually picking up a frequency and that's what you're, picking up? I mean, I know this sounds really crazy, but in terms of this technology, what if there's something else going on that we're not aware of? Because if I'm crazy enough to think about it, somebody else might be crazy enough to implement it in a sinister way. And I think that I don't think it's crazy to think that somebody might do such a thing. Look, I've done extensive research on many things, and one of the things that I do worry about quite a bit are, if your kid's in a store, I mean, what can this technology be used against you and your child? Does that have anything to do with the so many millions of children who come up missing every year? I know I'm really going off on a deep end with that one, but I don't really think it's far-fetched. Could Disney possibly be using this technology? I would be willing to bet they are. So, be safe. And definitely take a listen to this video if you ever, get the need to think about it. But if you start getting tinnitus or you start hearing voices, you may want to think about it. Maybe think that, maybe I don't need to be listening to these voices. I need to find some professional help, or maybe talk to other people around me to see if they're hearing anything as well. Because I think that there's quite a few people in different cities that are being messed with this technology. That's just my opinion. Thank you for watching the Entity Phylum.
Working with him, and that was the strategy that was being used to educate the public and decision makers, and the scare tactics, the spin that was being put on a weapons system. And that was how we identify an enemy. The enemy, at first he said, the enemy against whom we're going to build a space-based weapon system that he thought was a ridiculous idea, unnecessary and very dangerous, not to mention too costly, etc. The strategy that Wernher von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in '74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie. Control the Earth from space and space itself. Von Braun had a history of working with weapons systems and had escaped from Peenemünde to come to this country and landed as vice president of Fairchild Industries when I had met him. Von Braun's purpose in life during the last years of his life, his dying years, was to educate the public and decision makers about why space-based weapons are a dumb, dangerous, destabilizing, too costly, unnecessary, unworkable, undesirable idea, and about the alternatives that are available. And as practically a deathbed speech, he educated me about those concepts and who the players were in this game, and gave me the responsibility, since he was dying, of continuing this effort to prevent the weaponization of outer space. He invited me to come up on the platform with him, and actually he's holding on to me in this picture. I'm trying to get off of the platform, and he's holding on to this, trying to make me laugh. He's telling me jokes. When Wernher von Braun was dying of cancer, he asked me to be his spokesperson, to appear on occasions when he was too ill to speak. And I did. And what he asked me to do was to educate decision makers and the public about why we shouldn't be putting weapons in space.